Good evening, I'm Francis Gizama, the Yigo Mayor. Today is Thursday, June 26, 2025. It is now 6 p.m. and I call this YMPC public hearing to order. This hearing is being conducted at the Yigo Senior Citizen Center and is live streamed on the Yigo Mayor's Office YouTube channel. This hearing is for application number H2025-19, Conditional Use Permit. The applicant is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, represented by GHD Inc. From GHD Inc., we have here Mr. Joseph Pangilinan, who will give his presentation on this project. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Pangilinan.
Thank you, Mayor. Good day, good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for this public hearing. This is a conditional use application for a different house facility, and this is for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the project is actually located not too far from this location. It's on lot number 711 South. It sits right there in the corner of Olive Drive and Marine Corps Drive, just about a half mile off from the main traffic light headed towards Anderson. It is in a commercial zone property, and with that being said, because on a commercial zone property, you're required to actually go through the Guam Higher Land Use Commission for approval to build a patron house facility. And the intention of this is to be used by the members of the church because they have members outside of Guam, around the Pacific and the Micronesian area that come to Guam, and every time they come here, they don't have a place to stay. But I will go ahead and turn it over to Tony Brown to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Thanks, Joseph. I'd just like to share a little bit about the purpose of this patron housing facility. As Joe mentioned, we have members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints throughout Micronesia, including Yap and Palau, and Pohnpei and Chuk. And often these members, they'll go to church on Sunday in their own communities. And so we've got meeting houses and church buildings throughout many of these islands, including 3 meeting houses here in Guam. The temple on this site is the only temple in all of Micronesia right now. And so when these church members desire to have a temple experience with their families, Guam is the temple that they get to come to. And so when they come to Guam, they need a place to stay. They usually come for 3 to 5 days. And so this patron housing facility will provide some rooms that we can provide for these church members when they come here. It's often a challenge and a hardship to make it to Guam. As you know, the economy in many of these other Micronesian islands is a little bit more challenging than what we face here in Guam. And so we'd like to provide this service for these church members so that they can have a place where they can come and have a comfortable stay while they have their temple experience here on the site. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. And I have to apologize because I didn't introduce our team. So before I carry on talking about the patron housing project, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our team and where they're from. And so Tony, you just heard Tony Brown. He's the temple facility manager. He's from the church, and also from the church is Bhavya Mike, and she's the temple facility assistant. And then also here is Philip Lorraine. He's our project architect for this project, and also a representative for the church for this project. And I'm Joe Pangilinan. I'm from GHD. I'm a project manager and also representative for the church on this project. So before I talk more about the patron housing project, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the whole project development so that you have a better perspective on what this project is about and why we're doing it. So, the church has been a member of this community for over 50 years. And of course, through that time, the old facility that they were using has kind of had its fair share of wear and tear, been through various storms, and so it was about time for that facility to be replaced. But in addition to that, the church needs have also grown, right? And their membership has grown. And so what the church decided to do was just tear down the old facility and develop the entire site so that we could put something on there that would be, that would meet the needs of the church and the members of the congregation. So what they did was they came up with this comprehensive plan that would be developed in multiple phases. The first phase would be to build the temple, which really is the catalyst for the entire site. And Tony mentioned, it's the only temple here, in this region. And so it's also one of the pristine buildings, it's used for special events. And that's the first phase. And the second phase you see here is, on the screen behind me, is the meeting house, which is used more as, it's a multifunctional facility, used as a social hall, a classroom and education training center, and it's also a place of worship for the members of the congregation. So these two projects have already been built. And so through the collaborative efforts of the church's planners, consultants, and the design firm, we came up with this comprehensive plan that would meet the entire needs of the church. And so the third phase now is to build the patron housing. But before all of that, and one of the things that the church wanted to ensure as we were developing this plan was they wanted to make sure that we were not going to adversely impact the community. And so they had us develop a due diligence study before we even broke ground on the first project, which was the temple. And in that due diligence study, we were able to determine, things were, was it going to be or was it going to have an environmental impact to the community? Was there going to be any impact to the native species, flora, fauna around the area? Were there going to be any flood concerns? It's a 5-acre lot. It's a huge lot, so we knew there's going to be a lot of water runoff. So they wanted to make sure that we address that issue as well. The infrastructure of the facility, this area, because it's situated right next to the residential community on the backside there, they wanted us to make sure that, we weren't impacting any of that as well. The water, the sewer, and the power. We weren't going to put additional stress on the utility system. So, and then of course the traffic, so we did a traffic study as well to make sure that, everything was going to be designed so we're not going to be impacting it, or we would at least have a minimal impact. And if we did have an impact in any of those areas of concern, that we would have a plan to mitigate those measures. And so what we did, and I'll talk a little bit about that so you see that how we kind of solved some of those problems. So we determined already that through that due diligence study that we weren't going to have any impact on the flora and fauna. There were no native species in the area. We just had some measures as we were doing construction that we took to make sure that we didn't have, native species building their nests around the area. So we were able to mitigate that through just regular construction work acknowledgement. And then, in terms of the water, the stormwater runoff, what we did was we hired a geotech engineer to kind of give us, the properties of the soil in the area and kind of give us some recommendations on how to mitigate that. So with that information, our engineers are actually able to come out with a system that would capture all that water and make sure that none of that stormwater would be flowing or spilling into the adjacent lots. And so what you see here on this property, or this plan here, or the segment, is we built a retention pond on the north side of the temple, and then another retention pond on the south side of the temple. So those two retention ponds actually are able to capture all the water that flows from that property. And having gone through Typhoon Mawar and all the storms after that, we know that it works. We're pretty confident that that system is doing what it's supposed to be. In terms of the water source for the property, 3 facilities, we wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to be causing some negative problems for the adjacent lots. We've seen it before where we built apartment units and install multiple meters, and then all of a sudden, there's a low water pressure in the area. So what we did to mitigate that, first we confirmed with GWA, and they approved that, they basically said that what we have there in the area, the water supply that we have there is adequate. However, we wanted to just take additional measures to make sure that we weren't going to be stressing the system. So what we did was we actually built a cistern, an underground cistern on the north side of the lot. And what that does is it actually acts as an underground reservoir that collects water, so that during the peak hours, actually, all three facilities, or the two existing facilities, draw from that reservoir. And, we're not stressing out the system. And patron housing, as we develop that will also draw from the same underground reservoir. And so right now, I just want to say we're only using 1 meter to supply the entire lot, and that seems to be working well as well. So that was one of the other measures we took to mitigate, stressing the utility system. In terms of the sewage, we're very concerned about that as well. Wanted to make sure that, we were not putting in any septic tanks in the area. So the sewage from the temple, the sewage from the meeting house, and, are all connected to public sewer lines. This close to the aquifer, we wanted to make sure that we're not contributing any factors that would contaminate the aquifer. And then, in terms of the power, what we did was we built a backup generator facility down here on the south west corner of the property. And that actually serves the meeting house and the temple. And, during times of like storm or emergency use, that we use that as a backup. Again, that's just designed to also alleviate stress from the utility system. So that was the plan as we were developing this. We also looked at the traffic flow in and out of the property. We designed the property so that you have a entrance and an exit out of the property from Marine Corps Drive, and then you have another entrance and exit along Malala Drive. We designed the property actually to be equipped with about 150 parking stalls, and that was more than adequate. That was more than what we needed for both buildings. We looked at we did a traffic study for the location. What we determined was, there's a lot of traffic, especially during peak hours. You get about 17,000 cars that travel down Marine Corps Drive. The church, though, the way they operate the facility during the weekdays, from in the morning from 9 to 6, they're not. The two facilities, the temple and the meeting house, are not used. The primary use is really after those work hours. So we determined that was not going to impact the traffic flow in the area as well. So now, moving on to the patron house. This is the third phase right now that we're trying to do, and this is the project that is going up for the conditional use application. It's the patron house facility. It's 14,700 square feet. It's 2 floors. Its primary use is going to be for lodging, as Tony said, for the residents that come from off island. The first floor, I'm just going to switch around again here. Go back to the first floor plan. It is just mainly administrative functions that support the operation of that building. So there's, there'll be a receiving area, there'll be a dining hall facility, a kitchen for the patrons to use, there'll be a laundry room there as well for them to use, and a distribution center. So on the second floor, we have, this is the sleeping quarters. We have 9 sleeping units there. 6 of those sleeping units will be for dormitory type units, and they'll be able to accommodate at least 4 people per room. And then we have 3 additional units there that are more for durational staff and or the temple presidents. And those are, more of the larger, not larger rooms. Those units, I mean, overall, I just want to say that there's about 27 beds that this facility will accommodate. Okay. Go back here. Let's get to that. So, in addition to that, what we're doing with the temple is this one we're going to take a different approach to the power for this. We're going to use sustainable, renewable energy, and we're installing actually solar panels on this project. And so this is going to be the first project for this site where we're actually going to be using renewable energy. And we're working actually closely with GPA to make sure that we're following all the guidelines for that as well. With that being said, also, what we're looking at doing is, we're doing further studies on this, and you can see that right here, we're actually, we've kind of shown there that there's going to be a self-contained power energy container, which we hope can actually supply power to the entire site. So there's a plan right now, there's a study to see whether or not we can actually implement those, renewable energy, solar power for both the temple and the meeting house. In terms of the power, the sewage, the sewer line will connect to the public sewer line along the Lava Drive. And then the water source for that will be also drawn from the existing system. Now the water, that being, because what we're doing right now is when we build the project, we're going to also kind of offset some of the water flow on the property. So what we have to do is, sorry, I apologize, I'm flipping back here, but what we have to do is build a retention pond on the backside of the property there. You'll see on that corner there, to contain some of the water runoff. What it does is it filters the water and it brings it down to the main retention pond in front. So that's how we're kind of trying to solve some of these problems for the utilities on the property. But what I'd like to say also is that, the church wanted to make sure that we were developing the site so that it fits into the community. They didn't want to do a development where it was commercialized. What they wanted to do is provide something that was suitable for, the residents, something that was going to be enticing and encouraging. And so, if you notice around the site, we have a lot of landscaping. That landscaping, there's landscaping around the utility structures, there's landscaping around, the entire site. And we're installing, with this project, we're going to be installing a plant nursery. And that plant nursery is going to serve the entire site. The intent for that, just to show you that how committed they are to the appearance of the property is, the intent is so that if there are plants or vegetation that are sick or need to be replaced, they can automatically do it, because what they want to do is propagate some of these vegetation in plants. Okay. We're also including a grounds maintenance building, and the purpose of that is because obviously the more facilities you have on site, we need a place to maintain all that. So ground maintenance. In addition to that, we also have a guardhouse, which right now they have a security guard that doesn't have a place to sit or stay. So we're providing a guard check for him on the site as well. Okay. So I'm going to go through this. Here's a cross section of the building, and this really is just to kind of give you an idea that we are also, the building that we're putting up is not going to be intrusive. It's not going to, we're following the height limitations by code and by law for this location. It's not going to exceed 30 feet. So that's the intent here, to show you that we're actually doing something that's not going to be an eyesore or stand out in the community. Here's an aerial view. Gives you an idea of what that corner looks like between Malala Drive and Marine Drive. There's another aerial view of it. Shows you how the circulation of the parking works. You can see that coming right off the Record Drive, and it kind of goes back all the way around to Applicant Housing and then out to Malala Drive, and give you that perspective. And here's a front view of the building, just to show you that, we're not designing something that's gonna be too intrusive, something that's gonna be modern. It's gonna be built out of construction material that is actually conducive for this location. And, it's gonna be hopefully, there to entice and encourage the building for the local residents in the residential area. Here's a view of the front and with the grounds unit building. And then here's the backside view of the property. Where you can see that, we're putting the plant nursery on the backside. And again, I just want to say that, that plant nursery is not going to be a permanent structure. It's just there so that applicants to propagate and grow, the type of flora that they need for the property. There's a view of ground one. And with that being said, that is the project. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let us know. If you guys have anything else to say, Tony or Joe?
No, sounds good.
Okay, Mayor, that concludes our presentation. So.
Thank you to those who are viewing us on YouTube, and thank you, Joe and Tony, for giving us this opportunity of the village to view the plans of the church. And is there any questions, comments on the? Okay, there being no questions or comments on the live stream, we will now conclude this public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.